Hello, my name is Jeremy with Faithful Guardian Training Center. Today we're going to be talking about lifespan and development, focusing exclusively on the younger side of the lifespan. To start off with, we're going to get into the vital signs of neonates, infants, and puberty and onwards. Neonates, with them being smaller, they require a little bit more in some things than us as adults. The respiratory rate for a neonate is going to be 30 to 60. A good way that you can remember that is just double the minimum, or you can half the maximum. If you can remember that the minimum respiratory rate is going to be 30, double it, and that's going to get you your maximum respiratory rate. Anything that falls outside of that parameter is going to be considered abnormal. They typically are going to have higher body temperatures. Neonates fluctuate between 98 to 100 degrees versus adults, where you may fluctuate from 96 to 98. Infants or neonates are going to have a low systolic blood pressure. A way that you can remember the systolic blood pressure is going to be 70 plus 2 times the age in years. So, for example, a neonate, their systolic blood pressure is typically going to lie around 70. 68, that's not necessarily too crazy, too abnormal. 72, that's not too crazy, that's not too abnormal either. As long as it's right there in that ballpark, that's going to let you know that your neonate is going to be perfusing. Now, whenever you get up to an infant, so let's say 2-3-year-old, we'll go with a 3-year-old. 70 plus 2 times the age, so 2 times the age is going to be 6. 6 plus 70 is 76. So that lets me know that the minimum systolic pressure right there should be right at about 76. And that's just a good way to remember and gauge the blood pressure of kids. And going back to neonates, they're going to have a rapid pulse. Naturally, it's going to be from 100 to 180. You're really not going to have to worry too much about their heart rate until it gets up above 180, gets closer to that 200, 220 side. And that's when you're probably going to notice some symptomatic tachycardia, and you may need to do to treat your patient appropriately from there, which we'll get into in another video. So again, neonates, their respiratory rate is from 30 to 60. They typically have a higher body temperature, 98 to 100, and their low systolic pressure is at 70, so 70 plus 2 times the age. And they also have a rapid pulse from 100 to 180. They require their heart to be a little bit more. That way it can pump blood because they're so tiny. Infants, on the other hand, so from 1 to 3, their respiratory rate is going to be 25 to 50. So again, you just kind of double the respiratory rate, and you kind of get your respiratory rate. Their systolic is going to be between 70 and 90, because again, 70 plus 2 times the age is going to kind of get you your standard systolic. They're likely going to have a normal temperature, again, fluctuating from that 96, 98. It's not going to be too crazy for them to get up to 99. And they're going to have a rapid pulse, just not as rapid as a neonate, because their body's starting to develop more, their heart's getting more muscular. So their heart rate's going to be between 90 and 160. Whenever you get into the school age, so 4 years and onwards, the respiratory rate's going to go from to 20 to 40. So again, you just double it. You just double the respiratory rate. Systolic is still the same, 70 plus 2 times the age. And all this is going to continue until you get to puberty, which is going to be where you get into normal adult type vital signs. So blood pressure is going to be above 90, 90 to 110, 120. Their respiratory rate is going to be 12 to 20. Their temperature is going to be baseline, just like an adult, 96, 98. And their normal pulse rate is going to be from about 90 to 100, or I'm sorry, 60 to 100 for their pulse rate. So again, normal pulse rate for somebody after puberty is going to be 60 to 100, just like they would with an adult. So bradycardic is still below 60, tachycardic is still above 100. Going back to neonates, newborns, and infants, they have a couple different reflexes that we need to talk about. And you really need to be aware and familiar with each of them, as this signifies normal child development, and these are all normal reflexes that they should be born with. Now, the first one is going to be the rooting reflex. The rooting reflex, that happens whenever you're stroking the infant's cheek. What happens is the head is going to turn towards whatever it was that was stroking the cheek, and they're going to open their mouth. And so this is going to be really good for breastfeeding and bottle feeding. The next reflex is going to be the gripping reflex. If you have something that is placed inside of the infant's hand, what they're going to do is they're going to grip it. For example, if you place your finger inside of a hand of neonate, newborn, infant, they're going to grasp onto it, and their grasp is going to be so tight that at times they can actually support their body weight and hang from their hand that they're holding onto you with. Toe curling is going to be another one. For this one, you just have to stroke the inner sole of the infant's foot, and their toes are going to curl. And this is, again, natural reflex. This other reflex is called the Moro reflex. It happens whenever the infant gets surprised. And whenever the infant gets surprised, it throws its hands out, throws its arms out, and they open them their extremities wide, and they try to reach out and grab things. It's kind of a way of security. You also have this other one. It's a little bit more obscure. It's called the Gallant reflex. Essentially, you stroke the lumbar area of the child next to their spinal cord, and they are going to start rotating or curving towards that side that you're rubbing on the side of the spinal cord. And they're going to throw their hand out and look in the same direction as their hand. So they're going to kind of look like a fencer, so to speak. And that, again, that is called the Gallant reflex. A couple more developmental things you need to be aware of is the fontanelles. The fontanelles are these openings in the skull. You have your anterior fontanelle and your posterior fontanelle. Your posterior fontanelle, you would suspect that to close and form a more solid structure at about 3 months of age. The anterior fontanelle is going to close somewhere between 9 and 18 months of age. So again, posterior fontanelle is going to close at 3 months, and the anterior fontanelle is going to close at 9 to 18 months. And the fontanelle is a very critical part of your assessment of these neonates, infants, because you are going to know if they're dehydrated or potentially overhydrated based off of their fontanelle. So if they have a sunken in fontanelle, chances are they're dehydrated. If they have a raised fontanelle, or they have fluid escaping, they may have hydrocephalus, or they may end up be overhydrated, and they could have increased intracranial pressure. So those are just some things that we need to look out for. And that's the first part of lifespan development.